Hey everybody, so today's little show is going to be about a couple conversations that I've had over the last couple days. Now, you'd figure that everybody, should be on the same side if you're on the right? Everybody should agree with everything. Everybody should have, basically the same level of education about things. Everybody should kind of have a basic understanding of some of the founding principles and so on, and not to mention decorum. But as we have learned over the last 4 to 5 years, that is not the case. QAnon and the election and the COVID and all of these other things have definitely brought out a lot of different things, exposing people on the right for not being the level-headed, rational people that we have known the right to be for decades. Now, the reason I'm going to be talking about these conversations is because I think that there's some serious things that can be learned from them. The first conversation was on Twitter. You can go on there and you can look at it, at your will. And the conversation started out talking about Joe Kent and the American First platform and the ideology. Now, it started off with John Hacker putting out a tweet saying something about America First and how they suck. And I was like, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's that bad. And I went through and I read the platform. And there was a couple things that I don't agree with on America First. But, at the same time, it's like, well, you're not supposed to agree with everything that everybody says, or else, that just makes you a sheep and not an individual, right? Anyway, speaking of being a sheep, there was an individual who had a serious beef with Joe Kent. And Joe Kent is running on the America First platform. And this person made a whole bunch of accusations about Joe Kent, that he's a racist, that he doesn't believe that the Constitution is a living document, and whoa. That was enough for me. The Constitution is a legal document. It is not a living document. A living document is defined as a document that it has some legal, merit to it, but it can be transformed. It can be amended willy-nilly. It can just be like, okay, so here's my living will, and I don't want to do that one anymore. I'm going to change it, and I'm going to make it something else. That's a living document. A living will is a perfect example of a living document. The Constitution, however, is not a living document. It is not subject to change just because society or the will of the people even decide that that's okay. The Constitution has an amendment process. Like any law on the books, it has a process of which to actually change it, amend it, take away an amendment, completely erase something, or put something in. It has a process, a legal process. The citizens don't get to sit there and go, I want this amendment done. Nope, that's not how it works. And the founding fathers made it very, very clear through their own writings and their own speaking that they wanted the Constitution to be read in the ideas that it was written. In other words, we're supposed to be looking back at their words. We're supposed to be looking back at their time frame and going, this is what they meant when they wrote it. Now, there's nothing in the Constitution that needs to be interpreted. It is written in plain English. All of the amendments are written in plain English. All you got to do is read it and go, that's what they said. Okie dokie. I guess that makes sense. The Second Amendment, great example. At the time the Second Amendment was written, we just got done fighting a Revolutionary War where a bunch of 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouses were out there fighting off the British with weapons of war. Private citizens owned cannons. Private citizens owned all sorts of different military type weapons. Private citizens owned warships. In other words, the Second Amendment, contrary to the left's belief, according to the founding fathers and according to the Constitution at the time it was written, guess what? You get to own an F-15. Hoorah! And people can try to debate that all they want to. The Constitution is not meant to be interpreted. That is what America First says. The Constitution is not meant to be interpreted. The laws are meant to be interpreted to make sure that they abide and follow through the Constitution. Now, we have books upon books upon books of unconstitutional laws because people read the Constitution and they go, well, I think we can make it mean this. Therefore, it justifies all of this. Hence why the 10th Amendment is a joke and only applicable for certain things like pot. Now, What this person did when I provided quotes, because she was like, oh, the founding fathers, they didn't want any of this. They believed it was a living document too. Well, I provided 4 to 5 quotes, and this person came back at me saying that those aren't quotes. And I already went and looked at them and proved that they weren't quotes. To which I responded with links to sources, government and educational sources, that provided the passages that I put, the quotes that I put, in full context. Because that's what you do when you're told that what you're saying is garbage. You provide the actual source and context with it. Because some people aren't quick enough to go, oh, no, okay, that makes sense. Some people, they require a little bit more, which is fine, because when you're having a philosophical or ideological discussion, it's good to be able to back yourself up. However, the problem is because, people on the right have become so emotional now for some stupid reason. It turned into an hour and a half of, you don't even know what a quote is. Have you ever written a research paper before? Have you ever gone to school? You're so lazy. You didn't even verify your quotes. And I'm like, no, I did. I gave them to you, like full source. And that's just writing. That's not a quote. And I'm like, well, a letter, see what a quote is what I say or write down, and I take you a little chunk of that and I go, that's my quote. That's a quote. You don't provide the whole research paper, especially on Twitter, where you can only put in 127 or so characters. Anyway, so the moral of that is, people on the right, for the love of God, please just check yourselves. Do better. Be better, because you can be better. Don't dive into the hyperbole garbage that always sees from the relentless little toddlers from the left. Be better. You can do it. We did it for decades. We can be better. And when they're like, oh, you're being mean to me? Well, I'm like, yeah, I'm being mean to you because you're being dumb. Okay, like, call people out on their stupid behavior. And honestly, which I need to be better at, is disengage. When you realize that somebody is too dumb to actually grasp what's happening and the entire subject matter has been completely hijacked and derailed, just move on. They're not worth your time. Because if you're sitting there talking about any issue whatsoever, and you can prove your point, and you did handedly, and they're still deny, and jab, and insult, then it's just really not worth your time. I enjoy engaging with people who come for a battle of wits that are just completely unarmed. I admit it. I do enjoy it sometimes, mainly because it helps me get better. It helps me figure out and learn how to navigate through this insane web of delusion that these people live under, and it helps me learn. So that's one of the reasons why I don't disengage, but I really do need to, because punching down intellectually really isn't a good look for people. And so honestly, that's one thing that I definitely want to pass on to everybody is even though some of us, might be a little bit more rational, coherent, intelligent than some of these people, maybe we should all stop to punch down. And that's a lesson for me to retain as well. That's one thing I'm going to start trying to do, is I'm going to stop trying to, stop punching down when I realize that the whole idea of rational discussion is null and void. Now, on the flip side of this, John Hacker actually did respond to what I said about what he said, and we had a fairly decent conversation. It was respectful. It was, like, he put out some points and he put out some evidence, which I was like, wow, that's new. And then I could actually understand and appreciate his point. And his point is that America First has a lot of white nationalists and them who really like it. They really like America First. And I was like, okay, but at the same time, just because a whole bunch of people like something doesn't make it bad. If Trump said air is good for you, breathe more, how many people on the left would have been like, not doing it. Trump said it. And that's how so many people on the left think and believe. Just because Richard Spencer likes America First, therefore America First must be the new Klan platform. It doesn't show that. If you read the America First platform, that's not what it says. There's nothing ethnocentric about it. There's nothing that revolves around an ethno-state of any kind. The most radical idea is that they stop immigration for the next decade, 10 years or something like that, which I think is a little extreme myself, and I don't necessarily agree with it whatsoever. But saying that that's racist when the majority of immigrants that come to this country are from Europe, it's silly in so many different aspects. But that's one of the things when the people on the left, when I can have a good productive conversation with somebody on the left and somebody on the right is triggered and losing their mind because they can't believe that they got proven wrong and called out for being a liar, saying that they verified that the quotes I provided were all bunk. I mean, come on. We gotta be better than that. I cannot believe that I'm literally sitting here going, I had a great conversation with an Antifa guy versus a right winger who just sat there and just lost her mind. It is absolutely nuts to me. Now, the second conversation I wanted to talk about was one I think that a lot of people need to get more steadfast on. Now, it has to do with 2020 and what happened in 2020. First of all, nobody on the right should ever call January 6th an insurrection. It was not an insurrection. People don't know what the definition of an insurrection is. If they want to know what the definition of an insurrection is, look at Afghanistan. Super easy. We all watched it happen. There it was. That's an insurrection. What happened on January 6th was a riot, something that we have seen a ton of in 2020 and a little bit before and a little bit after, right? We all have seen riots. And yet, for some reason, everybody, even some people on the right, will call January 6th an insurrection. It was not. It was a riot, plain and simple. The vast majority of the riot was actually fairly peaceful. There was some bits that were not, where some people died due to the police, who, of course, no big deal. But there was a lot of footage that a lot of people don't want to see where everybody was just kind of milling about and hanging out and walking around taking pictures. Not an insurrection at that point in time, is it? No. However, the main crux of the conversation that I had with my buddy was about voter fraud and voter election fraud, right? And he said mail-in voting it should be across the board for everybody. And I was like, are you high? Because no way, no how would mail-in voting ever possibly be a good thing. Now, he lives in Oregon, and Oregon has had mail-in voting for a very long time. Washington also has had mail-in voting for a very long time. Washington State had an election overturned by the state Supreme Court who said, oh, hey, no, dead people can vote. And due to voter fraud, verified and proven voter fraud, a Democrat won the election over Dino Rossi. And feel free to look it up. Recounts, three different recounts showed Dino Rossi to win. And the state Supreme Court was like, nah, we really don't want a Republican governor. So we're going to go ahead and just be like, yeah, add these other votes in. Good to go. So you cannot actually sit there and say something stupid like voter fraud doesn't happen. Now, voter fraud happening on a wide scale nationally, creating a Biden victory over Trump? No, that did not happen. Thank you, YouTube fact checkers, because listen to me once again saying that widespread voter fraud did not happen in the 2020 election. Let's see if they take this video down. Fortunately, I'm on my little channel so we can see, what happens. But moving on, the problem with the 2020 election was not voter fraud, but it was cheating. There is a difference, and that's something that we need to really get on the same level with. Get rid of the conspiracy theories, because you can't prove all the mass voter fraud because it just wasn't there. There was some. Yep, there was some. here again, YouTube fact checkers, Google fact checkers, there have been a couple convictions of voter fraud in 2020, not to the scale of an entire election. Okay? So, what they mean by a rigged election was Pennsylvania, a very good example. The state legislatures, according to the Constitution of the United States of America, which is again a legal document, not a living document subject to the change of the will of the people or society, it says that all voter laws, rules, and regulations are to be decided by the state legislature. The feds don't get to touch it. They can put in constitutional amendments to sit there and go, these are things that need to happen through that process of amendments in the Constitution, which gave us, the women's right to vote, blacks' right to vote, so on and so forth, correct? Yes. Now, everything else, voter ID and all that other stuff, is left to the state's legislatures to do this. Pennsylvania had a set of rules for their elections. The Pennsylvania State Supreme Court said, we're going to change those rules, which they do not have a constitutional right or authority to do, according to, again, the United States Constitution. It's very clear, very specific, very explicit on the rules. However, due to the State Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, the rules changed. And because the Trump administration, I don't know what their problem was, because this is basic stuff focusing on stupid things like Arizona, when they had a huge thing that could be gained in Pennsylvania from a simple argument. I don't get it. I don't know why they didn't do it. I don't know what happened. It would have set a great precedent. It would have accomplished something. But no, they decided that they were going to go the stupid route instead, and I'll never understand it. It's just like when the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl and they decided to pass on the 1 yard line when they had Marshawn Lynch, who all he had to do was tiptoe across. Holy crap, what are you thinking? One of the biggest political blunders of all time, in my personal opinion. Now, my buddy was like, mail-in voting is great for everything and so on. But what he fails to understand is ballot harvesting. What he fails to understand is ballot manipulation. People going door to door. Hey, would you like me to help you vote? And he said that the founders would have preferred everybody to be voting by mail. Now, I disagree with that wholeheartedly, because the founders really wanted a secure election. They wanted to make sure that the elections were the way they should go. Now, when you have states like New York and California who are passing these laws saying that illegals or non-citizen immigrants should be allowed to vote in their elections, that's a problem. That is a huge blow to election integrity. When you have people saying stupid things like black people can't get an ID card, so therefore they're not allowed to vote, that is racist, first of all, and it's also disingenuous and dishonest. There should never be an idea out there that says that election integrity isn't as important as it should be. We should be doing everything we possibly can to ensure our elections are clear, free, and secure and accurate. We should. There should never be any argument about that, because if anybody will disagree with that sentiment, then you need to tell them to explain to you why. Why would we make it less secure? What's your reasoning? Why would you do that? Why would you want it to be less secure? Well, we need to make it more convenient. Why? Why do we need to make it more convenient? What is more convenient than going down for a week or a month, going down to your local middle school and voting? Or your local library, or your local post office, or whatever area that your county has deemed a place to go vote. Most counties aren't that big, and if they are pretty big, like some of them are over here on the West Coast, in Washington we have Skamania County, and it's huge. But guess what? People are going to have the ability to drive down when they go get groceries. They're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go vote. Voting is your duty. It shouldn't be as convenient as sitting on your couch going, yeah, this one sounds cool. Or having somebody knock on your door going, hi, would you like me to help you vote today? Oh, yeah, don't vote for that guy. He's a total fascist. Oh, what's a fascist? Oh, he's a Nazi. Yeah, don't vote for him, because that's what they're doing. we've had millions of examples of this, actually. But again, why make it so, the election's secure and people can't manipulate it? Like the media has manipulated it, and social media has manipulated it. Twitter just put out that they're going to start banning people for saying that vaccinated people can transmit the virus. That is manipulation. And that should be illegal. Sitting there censoring people for actually stating a fact, much less stating an opinion. This video might possibly get kicked off of YouTube because I'm throwing in a little bit of opinion with a whole bunch of fact. But because they don't like the facts and they definitely won't like the opinion, they're probably going to censor this. But again, has nothing to do with our elections and our voting and making sure that elections are secure, because we have allowed people to get into power that have allowed these tech giants and these media corporations to completely manipulate the masses. Come on, guys. Come on, right-wingers. Come on, conservatives. Come on, Republicans. It is time to be better. It is time to shine. For the love of God, 2022 is coming, and we need to have some strong people going in and just stick to the issues that matter to everybody. Like what happened in Virginia, that needs to happen across the country. And the only way it's going to happen is if people start pulling their heads out of their keisters, and if they start getting real, and if they stop with the emotional conspiracy theory garbage. They need to come back to reality and center themselves on what is truly important. We gotta do it, guys. There's so much on the line. We have to do it. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider joining me on Patreon. That is the only way that I'll be able to continue doing this stuff just on a financial basis whatsoever. I got a baby on the way. I have bills that are piling up. Having the big channel go down for so long has definitely put a giant damper on my finances. So honestly, truly, the only way I'll be able to continue doing this is if you go over and join me on Patreon. The link is in the description, and every little bit counts. If it's $1, $5, $10, whatever a month you can do and you would want to contribute to help me keep going, I will appreciate you more than I could ever express to you. Thank you guys for watching, and more content will be coming up very soon.